Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Under the Influence. This is a very special episode, and I hope you enjoy it just half as much as Levi and I enjoyed getting to be a part of it. We're joined by a special guest, Pastor Cyrus Rettmann. Cyrus served as my youth pastor and a mentor and spiritual leader to many. God used him in incredible ways in my life, and we spend the first half of this episode diving deep into Titus chapter 2, and especially how it pertains to mentorship, discipleship, and we spend a lot of time talking about time, really how time and being present over the course of long periods of time with people is a huge part of being a spiritual leader in their life in a meaningful way. And then after that, we spend some time discussing how Cyrus specifically played a role in my life, and then some of the other people that played a role in his life and his testimony and who God used in that way for him. So it's a great episode. I really loved it, and it's a special one to me, and I hope you love it. So stick around. We are joined by Cyrus. This is a long time coming. We've talked about doing this for probably 2 years, maybe something like that. I know for a fact you've come up multiple times in conversation between Levi and I think it was not long after I had gotten married, because we had seen each other again for the first time in a long time at my wedding, and we were talking about it, and then we were going to figure out some time to get together, and then I got debilitatingly sick, and then 6 months went by, and I realized, oh my goodness, I never got back to Cyrus, and
life.
Yeah. But I don't, I sometimes don't really like that excuse. It feels.
Yeah, but sometimes we say that just to be gracious.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. That's encouraging, Cyrus. Thank you.
But now we're here.
Yeah.
In the flesh, all three of us in the same room.
Yeah.
Beneath the studio lights.
Yeah. The studio lights.
I am here.
Yes. And we are grateful. We want to talk about, Levi and I were discussing what should we talk about with Cyrus here. And it was hard to ignore the role that you've played in my life and the ways that God has used you, not just in my life, but the lives of quite a few people. And so we wanted to talk about discipleship and mentorship, spiritual leadership. And, I was preparing some ideas and stuff, and then we were talking, we're going like, man, but we also want to hear some of Cyrus's life. So those are a few of the things that, we, for the listener, that they can expect, that are our goals in this conversation. But overall, I think because of the role that you've played as a leader in my life, at a key time in my life, I would like to explore that topic primarily. And I'm excited to get to do that with you both, even you, Levi.
Wow.
Even you. So I think to open it up, the idea here is to kind of trying to use less of those words. You pointed it out before we started. No, I'm really hearing it, man. I'm really hearing it. To kind of yep, maybe. We want to look at Titus 2:8 first, and if we have the time, we'd like to get to a couple other things here. And I think for our first little segment, or our first part of our discussion, we're going to look at how each of these speak to spiritual leadership, discipleship, and mentorship. So Titus 2, verses 1 through 8 says, "But as for you, communicate the behavior that goes with sound teaching. Older men are to be temperate, dignified, self-controlled, sound in faith, in love, and in endurance. Older women, likewise, are to exhibit behavior fitting for those who are holy, not slandering, not slaves to excessive drinking, but teaching what is good. In this way, they will train the younger women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be self-controlled, pure, fulfilling their duties at home, kind, being subject to their own husbands, so that the message of God may not be discredited. Encourage younger men, likewise, to be self-controlled, showing yourself to be an example of good works in every way. In your teaching, show integrity, dignity, and a sound message that cannot be criticized, so that any opponent will be at a loss because he has nothing evil to say about us." And it goes on, right? Slaves are to be subject to their masters and everything, to do what is wanted and not talk back. But I chose this section to focus on because of specifically what it says about the age ranges here, right? Specifically talking about older men, older women, and the role that they play in the lives of younger men and younger women. Also, how that is separated too by men and women, right? It doesn't just say older Christians and younger Christians. It does say older men, older women, younger women. And he gives some specific categories, some specific things that are to be demonstrated, right? Specific characteristics to be demonstrated. And so I wanted us to start there, to, what things in here do we think really apply, to what we're talking about, some of the specific things that stand out from this passage. There was one thing that I wanted to point out. I mean, there's a lot here, like you said before. You're like, we could just spend the whole thing in Titus 2, and I agree because there is so much. The one that just stood out to me, though, as I was in preparation, which now I've lost it. Oh, here we go. Is the emphasis put on sound doctrine and sound message that cannot be criticized, right? In verse 8, it says, a sound message that cannot be criticized so that any opponent will be at a loss. And I believe right at the beginning as well, it says sound teaching, right? And the importance being put on not just mentorship for mentorship's sake, not just teaching for teaching's sake, but right and right doctrine, right and sound teaching. And that is something that, I want to talk about. I had scheduled for us to talk about later, but we can bring up as well now. But I just think that there is such an importance on not cheapening the teaching of younger generations to, kind of just wrapping it up as if though, well, they're just so young, we don't have to really get into that yet. But the groundwork that is laid while people are young with real sound doctrine is something that I think about a lot and am pretty passionate about and try to come to the defense of often. And I appreciated seeing that specifically in here. But yeah.
I mean, if you deviate from sound doctrine, right, ultimately that means you've deviated from the gospel and you've deviated from Christ. So you're going to end up developing followers of yourself and not followers of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that's interesting about sound doctrine, especially in the time in which we live, is that there are so many different ways to get good sound doctrine. Even if you just get a list of like, hey, here are some pretty reliable authors, here are some pretty reliable teachers or pastors, like watch their YouTube videos, read their books, listen to their podcasts. And you guys probably know this way better than I do, but as large language models continue to develop and AI stuff develops, eventually those are going to become refined to the point where they will have closed systems where you can go access probably the teachings of specific people and authors, and you can interact as if you're interacting with that person, right? So the teachings of everybody from Martin Luther to R.C. Sproul to John MacArthur to whomever is even alive, right? You'll be able to ask some AI what they would say about this, what they would teach. And you could, in essence, get a lot of sound doctrine from pretty reliable sources. But I think what makes this transformational is when you spend the time with the people to see what sound doctrine looks like lived out.
Yeah.
And so when the older women are teaching their younger women, they are training them, which usually there's some kind of, example. Okay. In verse 7, it says, show yourself. I'm an ESV. That's my current version here.
Were you tripped up when were you wondering?
No, oh. I was able to roll with it.
I saw you look at me for a second. I was like, what is he reading? I'm reading NET.
Oh, there you go. I think I have that available, so I can just go check.
But you can use it. That wasn't a
no. But what I like about it is just it's that idea of showing yourself to be an example, right? And I think that is where most of the transformation has happened in my life. When I think back about the people that have impacted me, it was the people that I spent the most time with. Now, don't get me wrong. There were and still are authors that I have maybe like walked past in a hallway one time. I was like, that's the guy. I think that's the guy. I've read his books. Like, I missed my selfie opportunity. Right. But when you spend time with somebody and you actually get to see what it's like and you go, oh, That's what it might look like to be sober-minded in a very difficult situation, right? You had the privilege of watching me try to parent my young children, right? I've got 5 kids, and both Jerry and Levi saw my kids at youth group quite a bit. And there were times when no doubt I was not a good dad because I was trying to figure it out, and I was frustrated because I'm trying to play dodgeball right now and you are getting in the way. I can't believe what you've done to me. But what does it look like to be sober-minded in a situation where, right, you look ridiculous or you're being embarrassed? What does it look like to be dignified? Right? It's like, I did wear bow ties for a period of time.
Oh, I remember.
And so it's like, there, I taught
pretty
you.
dignified.
Yes.
Every time I have to wear a bow tie,
yeah,
I go, oh man, Cyrus used to wear a bow tie a lot.
I did.
It's pretty cool.
We could talk about that some other time. But yeah, that was back when. Never mind. All right.
Oh no. Oh,
But yeah, there is a significant, substantial, and like actual difference between hearing something being taught to you and like hearing somebody sharing anecdotal evidence of X, Y, or Z versus living alongside somebody and seeing them experience those anecdotal things, and you get to see how they respond to it. And it not only like, are there, like, if they do have the sound doctrine that they're being commanded to have, not only will it be that sound doctrine, not only will it be that anecdotal like story, but it will be the fullness of it, seeing it in action with your own eyes, being a first person like witness to it. And then that becomes actually like, oh, so not only is it true, not only did these things happen, but like I saw it happen, was able to experience those things, and it being actually like being able to put it into practice. And it gives you a level of trust with that person to be able to talk to them about whatever the thing is that's being discussed. Because you may not want to share that you struggle with something if somebody's portraying themselves as, yeah, I follow all of these things, I'm really good at it. Like, but are you though?
Yeah. So, and this is what I think is often missed when we go to Scripture and we read, Titus, we read Paul's letter to the Ephesians, we read some of these things. Paul spent 2 years in Ephesus at least
3. Yeah.
He spent lots of time with Titus, right? If you have any question about the relationship between Paul and Titus, read 2 Corinthians and see some of the amazing things that Paul says. Paul says that he was despairing to the point of death, and he was crying out to God for help, and God answered his prayer by the sending of Titus, right? I mean, how often do you and I, we God help us, and then someone comes into our lives and brings some encouragement. Thank you, that was encouraging, right? And we go, we don't always recognize, oh, God just answered our prayer, right? So, yeah, what does spiritual leadership, discipleship look like? Mentorship? There are a lot of great terms for really building and maintaining and sustaining a relationship. The reason I was so impactful in your life is because God was at work in your life, and I was in proximity, and I was there for about 11 years. And so, if God was going to do something in your life, and we know he that's what he does, right? Then he's going to use the people around you, and he's going to use the people who are spending time, if they are trying to love him and love God and love others. If they're going to try to make disciples, then those people are going to make an impact in your life. So I look back on who has made an impact in my life. Those guys were at the church I grew up, those leaders. When I went to Corbin University, right, those professors. When I was working at different churches, like the other leaders, my volunteers, and then students too. Because, yeah, we've spent the time together and we get to see what these things look like all lived out. Because God is training us, right? He's transforming us. Can we keep going in Titus 2?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I'm glad you asked that, because I was looking at these other ones, and I think let's just, Why don't we just stick with Titus 2?
Yeah.
Go to those if we need, but
Yeah.
let's not be in a rush to try and get to these other ones. Let's just, go for it.
So verse 11 says, "For the grace of God has appeared," which is a wild thing to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because grace is kind of like a concept,
Mm-hmm.
yet it's going to be, it's something that has appeared.
Mhm.
It has been manifested. We
Mhm.
know, and that's in the person of Christ.
Christ.
Right? And grace has brought salvation for all people. And so what is it going to do? Well, verse 12, grace is training us to renounce ungodliness.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea that grace trains us is sometimes overlooked, right? I mean, the concept of sanctification, that progressive Christ likeness, is something that is sometimes hard to fully appreciate because it can happen slowly. But this is helping us understand and connect grace to being transformed and trained. Right? So it's grace training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in the present age. And so you go back up into what we just read earlier, right? And this idea of being self-controlled is both for, it's for everyone, right? But older men, be dignified and self-controlled. Likewise, younger men, be self-controlled. And here, what does grace do through Jesus Christ? Right? It helps us, it trains us to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age. And so, what does that look like? Well, we have his word, but then we have his people.
Yeah.
Right? And God in his goodness, he brings people into our life that are just a few years ahead, that have right, again, go to 2 Corinthians chapter 1, that have experienced all sorts of suffering, and that the God of all comfort has taught them, and other people have comforted them through the God of all comfort, and then they get to share and minister to the next group, right? It's just, God's so smart. I mean, he is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. He's designed us in a way that when we are doing these things that we're talking about, like having these interactions with people, it's set up in a way that we can see God through those things, like the interactions. Like we've talked a lot about fatherhood and other things, but like through mentorship and like seeing somebody teaching you things or like showing you things, you can see that your relationship to them versus your relationship to God. And like we see things like through relative, like to the things that we've experienced. So being able to see those things, witness those things, be in a relationship with these people, and then being able to be like, oh, God is like this, but more. And these are the things that I should be doing, but more. And so like when we are shown like the grace of God, like being shown who Christ is, and just like the very notion of grace versus us, like, paying off our sins on our own, but like that grace that has been extended by God, and being able to see that lived out through other people, we're able to see, because like God's called us to be his witnesses, right? So those mentors that are in your life, or you as a mentor, you are like God's representative here. We are the ambassadors of Christ. We're showing that grace extended throughout all of these generations to these next people. Like, it's also like, don't look at me for me, don't follow me for me, but follow, like, impersonate Christ as I impersonate him. Like, or that was weird. Like, follow after Christ as I follow after Christ. Don't look at me for me. Don't just follow me, but follow the things that I do rightly, and be able to see that through our relationship versus, it's really cool the way that God's designed us to be in a way that he can show himself by using us. Like he's put it, like, before we even fell, he set it up for us, because like he doesn't need us to do anything, right? He's chosen to use us, right? That's like a hugely insane thing to think about, because God could just come down and be like, hey, you have to do these things. But instead, he's chosen to use humans to do his good work here, right? And by doing that, he's also set us up to be able to receive that through humans. But it's all by him and for him and through him, but he makes use of us to do all of these things, like that proximity that you were talking about. Yeah, I think it's so cool the way that God's created us all to interact with the world in the way that we do, in preparation for all of these other things that he's going out of his way that he didn't have to, but he chose to because he loves us and wants to be in relationship with us. And what do you do with somebody that you love and want to be in a relationship with? Well, you give them things to help you out with.
I mean, you want them to experience goodness, and God is good. Yeah. And so he wants us to experience him, and it brings him glory to use us in that way. And one way that, what you're talking about, the experience of God, of grace, right, through his people, and that I've been not just thinking a lot about, but talking a lot about with various people, but is just the experience of forgiveness too. We've been talking about, it wasn't long ago that Levi and I talked about this, about even baked into the importance of how we're told to confess your sins to one another, because the opportunity that is presented when doing that too, to confront God's forgiveness through your brother forgiving you, right? And because for a large portion of my life, being just so ashamed of and hiding sin, right? And specifically, pornography and just a slew of other things, but that one specifically, right? It's just so baked into it, it's just hiding it. And like, you may be confessing your other sins, but that's the one you don't for so many people. And, it's just that sits in your head as though, well, I don't share it. Maybe there's plenty of reasons people don't, but like, I don't share it because that's the one that's unforgivable or whatever it may be, right? But it's no surprise that, often the first thing people are told to do is just follow what God says to do. And I guess it's maybe rebranded or restated now, like be vulnerable, right? But it's confess your sin, like be honest and be open with what is wrong that you're doing. And then one of the natural byproducts of that is, by being in proximity and confessing your sin to a brother in Christ, is to experience, first, maybe the necessary consequences, right? Experience some of those necessary consequences, and while in a sober mind, the right establishment of guardrails and all of those sorts of things, but also to be forgiven, right? And like it says in 1 John 1:9, confess your sins, and he's faithful and just to forgive you of your sins, and to experience that through a brother. And so, like, there's all these things that we experience that God does for us, and we experience them because of our proximity to our brothers in Christ, and specifically those, like you were saying earlier, that have gone and maybe just have a few years on you and have experienced those things first, and can encourage you that you are experiencing or will experience those things as well. But yeah, that one, I think, in my life has been extremely important, and is a standout one, is the forgiveness element. But
so as we were talking about, like the idea of discipleship and how that really plays out, one of the issues that first is that idea of time, right? And it's easily overlooked when you read scripture, especially because it's hard to put it into, like, we don't think timelines very often.
You're reading it quickly.
Yeah, so go read Galatians, and Paul's like, oh, and I spent a couple years right over here, and then I spent 15 years over here before I hung out with these guys, and you're just like, wait, what? Like, that's a lot of years that Paul was doing other things before he went on his missionary journeys. But when we talk about the time Paul spends with the believers in Ephesus, right? And if you go through the book of Acts, sometimes you can read it and notice some of the time things a little bit. Sometimes there are little phrases, like even like when they would be traveling, like, they were shipwrecked because it was kind of in the winter or something like that. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's a little hint there. But the idea of time is I think, sometimes overlooked. Because time helps us establish trust, right? And not only that, but the longer you spend around people, like the higher the likelihood you're going to see ups and downs, the highs and lows, right? And so, if you see somebody a few times, the chances that you're going to have to comfort them or come alongside them when they're hurting or their family's hurting or when you're hurting, pretty few and far between. But when you spend enough time, and that's one of the greatest blessings, that, right? Being there 11 years or just shy of 11 years, I get to know you and I get to know your family. I get to know your friends. I get to go speak at chapel. I get to go to Taco Bell, right? We get to do the things that, you get to go on all the youth group trips. You get to see what happens when, other students do things that are like, oh, that's dangerous. What are we gonna do about that? Right.
Looking forward to that.
Oh, it'll happen.
Yeah.
But that's the element of like, okay, because we talked about sound doctrine a little bit earlier. There is a lot of good teaching out there. There's a lot of horrible teaching out there too.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We don't have time to list all those people. No. Right. It probably would be good to list a few of them sometime, and like Paul did. Right, Paul named a few names.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Saying.
We talked about that not that long ago. That it's okay to do that.
Yeah. So, spending time together, though, talking about the things that are good and true, connecting back to the gospel, establishing that trust, so that way, when we do say, "Well, what do you think God wants you to do in this area of your life?" you can be honest. You can be like, "What am I supposed to say?" It's like. Because that was one of my favorite things in like the last year or so of my ministry. It was like spending time with you guys and saying, well, what do you think God wants you to do? Because I don't have to have an agenda, right? I can let God work on your heart and you get to say, I think God may want me to be in ministry. Oh, okay. So what would be the next step? How would you start to walk through that door? Or if you were going to, pursue any other career or whatever God had for you, like, oh, well, I just get to spend time with you.
Yeah.
And it's over the series of weeks and months that then we get to see like how God is leading. And I just get to be there. And I was for that season just to be like, so this is what you told me last week. What's the update this week?
Nothing.
Sometimes, right? But there are different categories or areas of life that we would, right? We tried not to like overly categorize things and like get all, anyway, we tried not to fracture our life into siloed off areas because it really is all coming back to what does it look like to live out eternal life in every area of your life in a way that is, honoring and really truly abundant, right? But yeah, having the time to do that. And that's one of the hardest things to do is to just spend time together, especially in a Western culture, right? And that's one of the things that's so profound about Jesus is that if you would bring Jesus to modern America, people would be like, man, he is so inefficient, right? He does not keep a schedule. Like he could have healed so many more people. Like he could have fed so many more people. Like he is not maximizing his potential, right? And there are so like people would criticize Jesus because he would go and hang out at the well, or he would maybe go to like a meeting with some people, like some religious leaders that like, well, why are you spending your time with them, right? This is the kind of stuff that it's so countercultural today, but it's still impactful, right? Spending time with people is what's going to make a difference.
Because like it's not just like from one point of view, oh, he's spending time with these religious figures that like, why are you wasting time preaching to them when they're not going to be people to change? But he's also spending so much time with the tax collectors and those that are seen as like the worst people in society. Why is he spending time with them rather than the middle people, all of us that are like following him around, us 5,000 people that want more and more food? And he's just making these really, the countercultural decisions. It is something to think about, spending your time with people rather than just trying to maximize everything for maximization's sake.
Yeah. And and this isn't new. These concepts aren't new, right? We live in an attention economy. Like we now live in a time where people, are asked to like and subscribe all the time. By the way, if you haven't done that yet, this would be.
That's like it's like one of the only plugs this show has had of that. Thanks, Cyrus.
Well,
we should do it more often.
But one of the reasons I think it is valuable to like and subscribe to certain things is because it's helpful to, if you want to become like those people, right? So Psalm 1, don't walk with these people, don't stand around with these people, and don't get comfortable and sit with these people, right? Mm-hmm. It's be aware of the voices, the influences that are around you. When I start really enjoying some new thinker, I find myself talking like them, thinking like them, even maybe developing some of their mannerisms. And you're like, wow, I really shouldn't be any more like Jordan Peterson because I am not like him. Right? It's like, maybe if I look up here, Jordan Peterson looks up here and he comes up with cool things. I mean,
a lot of
yes. I mean, however, if the people that you are spending a lot of time with are like Jesus, or are pointing you back to Jesus, then that's a really good thing, because like bad company corrupts good morals, good company can corrupt bad morals. Right. And I mean corrupt in a good way.
Yeah.
Right.
Like overturn.
Yeah. It's like, take that.
Yeah.
Bad guys.
I corrupted you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, this is like who do you talk like?
Yeah.
It's whoever's been influencing you is who you talk like. And that's who you're being mentored by. That's who you're being shaped by.
Yeah. We kind of have a joke in I guess not so much me and Levi, but some of the guys that we graduated with, we had a Bible study for a little while, a weekly Bible study. We were getting together, and something that essentially every week, it didn't matter what we were talking about. It seemed as though every week what we came back to was there's like a quote from somebody that's maybe the more worldly way of saying essentially what you're saying, that like you are the conglomerate, or you are the
average of your 5 closest friends.
Yes, that you are the average of your 5 closest friends. And now it's this funny thing that whenever I'm with Carson, he's the guy that we had, it was at his house, we'll just be talking, and then somehow in conversation that can play a role, because I mean, essentially for what you're saying though too, right? Because it is so prevalent in our lives, which is that who we spend time with. And it's no surprise that something that we've been talking about on the podcast recently is that it seems as though every episode we're, without setting out to, coming back to this theme of the fact that like your conduct will make or break your witness, right? But it's almost as though we're coming at it from the other side, which is also that like the conduct of those that you choose to spend time with, which I guess in a way is your own conduct. It does matter, right? And it does matter. And yeah, the time thing though that you're talking about, a part of it that I've been really praying about and asking for the Lord to help me remember and to be careful about is that, I think that this plays a role when we're considering mentorship, because those leaders in your life are who you are often going to be and should be going to when you need help, right? When you need wisdom. And when we need help, usually it's as though we're identifying something as a problem and we want it fixed and changed. And that doesn't happen right away. And I've been reminded of that a lot, and especially when maybe this sounds bad, but like when the problem is just maybe an exhibited behavior or a situation in someone else's life too. That's the thing. And I think if you're in a position where you're trying to be counsel for other people, you're trying to pastor other people, or in any way minister to other people, a lot of the time, especially as a vocation, it's like the projects that you're working on. It's different than if you're an engineer. The projects you're working on are the things going on in other people's life and your own, but in other people's lives. And that time thing just plays a huge role. And the longer I spend, the more time I spend in a role like this and just more involved in church, I think the more that God has been just reminding me to be patient with those things too. I think that patience, and I actually bring this up a lot because I think it's something that you said in youth group a long time ago, is you made a distinction between patience and long-suffering and made a case for the fact that long-suffering is often a better translation for what we're told to be doing. And in my head, I often think about it as though like patience is kind of, tapping your foot and waiting for the thing you want, whereas long-suffering is the willingness to endure for what is right. And I just am confronted with that a lot about the time, excuse me, how much of a role time plays in impact, right? Whether that's the impact God is having on others through you, or just in general, what God's doing, that it takes time. And that's a real struggle for us. We really butt heads with that, I think. At least I do.
Just to be a little nerdy, those two words in the Greek that get translated patience, long-suffering, they are different. And one seems to have more of an idea of enduring circumstances, and the other has to do with enduring people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is
I guess that makes sense.
I don't want to say, because I'd probably get them mixed up, and then in the comments, and be like, that Greek scholar that listens to your podcast is going to tear me apart.
My grandpa? Oh no.
Maybe that would be cool.
If I had to personify a Greek scholar that listens to the podcast.
But those are the kinds of things like, in time, how are you going to handle these things, right? Steadfastness. There's a lot of time words when you look at these kinds of things, right? Steadfastness is one of those words that is used in Titus 2. That idea of like hanging in there.
Yeah.
And sometimes we use like those terms, right? Hang in there. Right? It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've seen that cat poster, right? And it's cute.
I think it's a bat, actually.
What? Huh?
Like I know I've seen one that's a bat hanging upside down, and it says "hang in there."
Like it's a little kitten.
The one I'm seeing
caught
is
in
the
a tree.
kitten. Yes,
and it's just like
he's like, oh,
hang in there.
No.
Yeah, it's precious.
Yeah.
I don't think that's trademarked. So I mean, if you could put that little image in there, that'd be sweet.
Braden will
kitten.
Intern will
hang in there. Sorry, bud.
Sorry, bud.
But those are the kinds of things that there's value in kind of categorizing things to try to help understand stuff. But time words, right, and relational words, there are a lot of those when you read these descriptions. You pointed.
I did.
That means you had a thing.
Yeah. What I was going to say is like all of these things being time related, like the people that you're spending time around, like that time that it takes to build relationships that are like trustworthy, the all of these things of like putting up with things for time, right? And like that long suffering, that idea of patience, the reacting to the time that it takes for things to happen, the just that things take time themselves. Also, as we grow older, like I'm, only to the age that I am. And in my anecdotal experience,
it's so true.
Time moves faster the older that we get. Because like the older that we get, the time is less and less relative, like the 1 second is longer the younger that you are, because it's
percentage of your life.
The percentage
1
of your
year
life
is a tenth
is
of your life when you're
drastically
10.
different now than it was when I was 5 years old.
I love, let's talk more time theory sometime.
But but all of that to say is just like, when you are around somebody that, like, your mentors, most of the time they're going to be older than you, and they will have gone through things you haven't gone through. You will be going through things they may not one-to-one go through, but they have a different view of time than you do. Just like God has to a way larger extent, because he is like outside of time, right? He has a view on things like 1,000 years in the blink of an eye and all that. Like, but knowing that these circumstances that we are going through, that's taken our entire life, like if something is our entire life, as like a 15-year-old talking to somebody that's in their 30s or 40s, it's like, hey, that's like only a portion. Like, this is something that you will be able to get through if it is, or be able to, long suffer through. Like this idea of like how we experience time, as well as all of these ways of dealing with things, by having a mentor in your life that is somebody that is older, has a unique perspective in it. And like the other, like, you may not hear it all when you're that young and understand it all when you're that young, but you can look back on those kinds of things. But it does help having the time with somebody where it's not just they're saying these things, but they're living these things out. They've experienced these things, and the things that they're telling you are trustworthy and true, and like doctrinally sound.
Yeah. And this is God's great design of the church. So initially, right, Adam and Eve, fruitful and multiply, and it is through the parents that they are best going to exemplify who God is, right? Male, female. He uses each of them and their individual uniqueness to best exemplify him and his character, right? And so as children are raised by godly parents, a godly mom and a godly dad, they have the best chance to see the character of God displayed through strength, under control. I mean, we're talking ideal situations, right? That the mom is nurturing and caring, and the dad can be strong as needed, and can discipline lovingly as needed, right? But we also know we live in a fallen world, and when that does not happen, God, again, in his infinite wisdom, created a place for those kinds of relationships to still be cared for in the church. And so this is one of the hard things about, I think, American Christianity, is that if it's overly Sundayified, right? Then those relationships throughout the week don't happen, right? We're so individualistic that we don't live together like we once needed to, right? And this is one of the challenges of discipling people, is because we don't spend very much time together. But this is also why we are most like our parents. And how many kids are like, boy, I don't like that about my mom, my dad. I don't want to be like that. And then when you grow up, you're like that. Why? It's because you spent so much time with them. When the challenge presents itself, when the circumstances present themselves, you have learned through observation, right? You've learned some kind of response because that's how your parents handled it. Or you didn't have an example, and the only example you had was whatever resource there was, right? And so this is one of the great challenges in which we live, especially when we live in this attention economy, right? Millions and billions of dollars are being spent to capture our attention. And most of those false gospels, because they are all trying to tell you they are going to, if you just follow them, they are promising you a better life, right? All those false gospels are promising you a better life. they let you down, but the true gospel that points you back to Jesus, right, those are out there. But being in community, right, that's such a great word right these days, right? Why? Because it's true, right? But being in community, that's where you're going to be able to do that stuff. But you have to prioritize it. And it's so hard when you have all these competing gospels constantly bombarding you.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I didn't, we talk a lot about the importance of community and the challenge that is present in, you have to commit to make that, like, that has to be a priority. I think you said that, but we don't often discuss how the world system is seemingly designed to compete in that way, right? Like you were saying, there's so many false gospels that are competing, and for your time, your attention, and then your time through retention, right? Like that's such a buzzword too nowadays. Like whether it's on social media or whatever, it's all about capturing attention, and then it's about retention, you know. And of course it is, because if the enemy is going to make lasting impact, really lasting damage, then it is going to be with that time element, right? Keeping your time captive with people that are not living like Christ, right?
Yeah, think about how Satan tempted Jesus, right? He put forth all these things that are in and of themselves like the things Jesus was actually eventually going to get, right? He was just trying to circumvent God's timing in all this. That is how we end up in most sin, right? There are things that we want, but we don't want to do it God's way.
Yeah.
Right? If you go look at the works of the flesh, the things that are just below those things are things that are part of just being human, right? Like worship, sex, justice, even anger is like, maybe it's that sense of injustice, right? Like I've been wronged. Like food and drink, like taking it to excess, right? You go look at a lot of those things, and it's taking something that is part of creation and then taking it outside of God's design. And the enemy is so crafty, right? And what he does is he says things like, and I think I heard this in a Craig Groeschel podcast, and he's a pastor and leader guy, and he talked about how one of Satan's tricks is that he says it's no big deal, everybody does this, right? The easy one, of course, is like pornography. It's like it's so available. It's not really hurting anybody. You can just do it and get away with it. It's no big deal, right? Which is all lies, but they're really convenient. And then when those lies start to be revealed, and it does hurt people, right? It destroys your own perspective of other people, right? You begin to objectify yourself and others, and it's destructive to relationships, and it creates really unhealthy thinking patterns, and it destroys intimacy into the future. And there are all these things that the lies don't tell you, right? And so when you do want to do something about it, Satan then says, no one will understand. Right? You can't share this. Like no one will accept you. No one will forgive you. Right? And so he's so crafty. On one hand, he's like, it's no big deal. Everybody does it. And then when you're like, I got to get out of this. I need to confess this. I need to change this about myself. And it's lying, right?
Yeah.
It's cheating at school. It's our goal isn't to make a long list, but like that's what he does. It's no big deal. And then the next thing you know, nobody will understand. No one will forgive. You can't share this with anybody. It's like, he's so crafty like that. And so his strategy, right, is he uses the world to capture your time, capture your attention, right? Keep you distracted, keep you away from what? Being around the type of people that are going to point you back to Jesus, that sound doctrine, point you back to the gospel, and say, hey, let's be clear-headed about this. Let's be sober-minded, right? Let's be dignified instead of what's the opposite of dignity? It's like making things worthless, right?
Yeah.
It's like, instead of being pejorative, instead of like taking things down, taking people down, speaking down, instead of like honoring God's creation and his design, right? It's like, let's make it common, right? It's like, that's exactly what he does. Yeah. And a lot of you don't know me. Some of you might, because maybe you'll listen to this because you're like, oh, I remember that guy. I like to have fun, and I like to make jokes, and I love kidding around. But I have learned that if I do that in such a way that it actually is not dignified, it's hurtful and it dishonors God. And it's like, oof, my humor just went too far. It's like, yikes. But you need people in your life to help you see that and to walk, and that takes what time, right? So anyway,
yeah.
Speaking of time, the bow ties. Why I wore so many bow ties?
I'm glad we're coming back.
Because Doctor Who, Time Lord.
Really?
Oh yeah, bow ties.
It's about
cool.
time too.
I know. That's
Oh,
why I
my
figured I should share that. But that was one of the reasons back when Doctor Who was cool.
You were watching it then?
Oh yeah.
Oh really? I've never gotten into it.
I tried once and then I didn't, and then I tried again and I made it through a few of the early weird ones, and then I got, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And then I quit watching a while back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Levi's a big fan.
I was a huge
Sorry.
fan.
Yeah.
And then
That's an important distinction.
Just
So anyway,
fell apart.
that's bow ties are cool.
One thing that I was gonna say is another whole thing with like time and being in a relationship with somebody is like, it can seem like it's a negative, but there's going to be a positive with it. You get to see that these people, because like one of the things that you mentioned is like the enemy will use like, you're struggling with a thing. Well, nobody else struggles with that when you're trying to get out of it. And being in relationship with these people that in those times, they will be put on a pedestal of like they've never struggled or had to deal with any of these things. But being in relationship with somebody is seeing them go through all of these different experiences, and being humans on this side of eternity, we will fail. And so you get to see them fall at times. Like you will see there will be failures, because I wasn't there all the time, but I'm sure that you may or may not have lashed out at your kids for doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. But like, you have also the opportunity with time to be able to react correctly to when you do fall, and to be able to show like, hey, when you fall, it's not the end, because our God is great, and we can go and humble ourselves and ask for forgiveness of those that we've wronged, and also receive forgiveness from Christ and from those other people. And you just, you get back up to trying to live that life that God has called us to live. And so like, and yeah, like it's a horrible time because like there is such a oppression on our time, like, and the the void of community that we have, because our community is becoming more and more these parasocial relationships that we have with the content that we consume, rather than the people that we at one point would be living and working with. It's just I like not to focus on those things, because like you don't want to just get buried into like being a doomer about the situation and the time frame that we're in, but being aware of those things so that we can make the right choices and go out of our way. Because like one thing that was really cool about you, because like I wasn't one of your like, I wasn't mentored by you. Like we did like a Bible study at one point. And I went to a couple like youth groups with you. And I saw you every once in a while. But a cool thing about you was that, and being in a relationship with Jerry, being able to see how you were going out of your way to interact with Jerry, to be around Jerry, to be this light and mentor, and bringing him and calling him to more, but also showing him like all of these things that like, oh, I can drop these things for you because I care about you so much. And seeing somebody as an adult, like not only doing that, but also using their free time, playing video games, not just for their own self-satisfaction, but also for those around them, and to build better relationships, and to just and that it's possible for adults to, you know, still play video games. That was another cool thing to see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun when you're an adult and you can play League of Legends or Smash Bros. And not always lose every time. It's fun.
What's that like? Tell me, you know, what's it like to not always lose at League of Legends?
Well, that's the joy of being on random people's teams. Because, you know, when you're old, you can only play support.
Oh,
because you're slow.
I already like made support.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, well, I can't. I'm not quick like I once was. Anyway, but lots of fun, and there was a time when I was like, Jerry remembers, we went to like a board game comic book place, and we were like, hey, what's the newest? What's up and coming? What are a lot of people spending time with?
Yeah,
and that's how, like, we were. Oh yeah, this whole League of Legends thing is just getting started. I was like, oh, all right. Well, if this is what my students are playing, I should probably.
Well, I wasn't. I do want to say that. The only reason I've ever played League of Legends, is because of that conversation, and you got me into it.
That's why. And those college guys that ended up being our interns, right? That was a big connection point.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I started playing League of Legends because of you guys and like two guys from our high school. But like I remember playing with you like all that long time ago.
Yep.
And
yeah. I mean, we're still friends.
Well, I fell off that game quick because I'm terrible.
Yes,
I'm really bad. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm really bad.
Not you. I was like, I made it to silver, boys.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just like, gosh, how come? It's all right.
That's all right. Can I ask a question about that, actually?
Oh, please do.
I don't know if there was more about this specifically, but I think it would be interesting to. We've had a really good conversation about specifically the element of mentorship that is presence over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be interesting to maybe just talk more personally a little bit, and so we can see some of how those things have, through experience, have played out. And all that to say, real quick though, I do want to ask that conversation. So I've brought it up on the show before. I've talked to Levi about it. I've talked to you about it a lot. When you took me to that game store and we asked that guy, I often, you know, with my involvement in Christian influence, one thing that I was told early on was, hey, you know, this is a support raising job, so really make sure you got your testimony down. You know, I was like, oh, okay. You know, but my testimony is like my whole life. You know, where do I start? But I was thinking about, well, it's important that you can point to, you know, in your testimony, where is somewhere where maybe God had. And I'm saying it this way just because I don't know. It does kind of gamify almost, and so that's the part of it I don't love. But there is an element of truth to, you know, how has God shown you that this type of ministry matters, is essentially what I was being asked. And I was thinking about my life, and I remember that's when I really remembered that moment. And I think the next time I saw you, I went, hey, I had this realization. You did this at this game store. But I want to know, why did you take me with you for that? Like, was that conversation for me, or was that a conversation you were going to have already, is my question.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it was looking for an opportunity to spend time with a student and trying to find things that they might be interested in.
Okay.
You know, it's like looking for opportunity to enter into people's worlds.
Yeah.
Right. And quite honestly, most of my hobbies have been that, right? It's like playing disc golf, playing D&D, playing League of Legends, playing Hearthstone, playing basketball, playing dodgeball, playing whatever, like golf now. I mean, like most of my hobbies, hunting, fishing, have always been because of other people. And that's part of just how God has made me. I really enjoy people. I find learning fun. And so learning and playing Settlers of Catan or Ticket to Ride or whatever, like deck builder, whatever, like I love that stuff. And So finding things that other people are excited about. I mean, there was a season I remember in high school, like Magic the Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of my friends were like, "Oh man, we love this. This is so cool. Okay, I'll play."
Mm-hmm.
And so I got into that. Right. I mean, that's just kind of how God has made me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's funny because a lot of people, like right now, like I do CrossFit. I did cycling last summer, and like I went hunting and killed my first buck last summer. You know what I mean? It's just like
Congrats.
Thank you. But those are the kinds of things that are connected back to people.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's just been part of how God has made me. And so I was looking for, how do I connect
Mm-hmm.
with my students? How do I find avenues where we can spend time together? And that was one of the things. It's like, hey, Jerry, let's go. I mean, and there was a killer taco shop.
There was, yeah. I was going to bring that up too, because
Right
I think we went there right after going.
Oh yeah, Marcos.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is something else now, I think.
I
right?
have no idea.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, I moved out of town.
Yeah.
So,
but no, I've just thought about that a lot. I've thought about, because it did make an impression on me. We say at Christian Influence, identify and then invade. Identify those areas
Mm-hmm.
where people care about things. Really, that's a better way of saying it. The way you said it, what do people care about? And can I engage with that in order to engage with them?
well, that's what we saw with like League of Legends and this whole esports movement.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. If there are esports, there are non-esports, and they have like Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and that was the conversation we had. Like, there should be a Fellowship of Christian Gamers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why doesn't that exist?
Yeah.
Right. And now you guys have like totally invaded that space.
It's a great word, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will more than us
Space
too.
invaders. That's you guys.
Oh, that's right. He said that to me the other day. I forgot to tell you that really Christian Influence should have a shirt that's Space Invaders, because we invade that space. But it's more than just us.
That's pretty good.
For sure. It didn't even, there are, I was telling you the other day, right, that it's really cool to see how God has brought up a ton of ministries and a ton of people that are really passionate about reaching gamers in the way that I remember you talking to me about then. And it's just so cool to see, because also it is an interest or a hobby that is really, really multifaceted. Not to say that traditional sports is not, but because it's just so enmeshed with the internet that it's by its very nature, it's like the most polyhedral dyes of all time. Just like so many facets to it. And yeah.
I mean, it was back then when I started paying attention to Twitch, or I'd spend time with Twitch, right? And started watching streamers.
Yeah.
And occasionally, even now, I'll look for Jesus streamers. And there are some out there.
Yeah.
But not a lot of good ones.
Mm-hmm.
At least from what I found.
Oh, sure.
That doesn't mean they're not out there. Let us know in the comments.
I know a few that I would consider good ones.
Yeah.
And that we've had the pleasure of getting to meet here and there and talk to and get to hear some of their vision, I suppose. Maybe that's the wrong word, but yeah, sorry,
but that whole world, now I watch a guy in England like lobster fish on occasion. I'm like, look at that. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's like that whole, but again, going back to like, how are you going to spend your time?
Yeah.
Who are you going to become? What are you going to, it's like, oh, Lord, help us.
So, we've alluded to, like, you did a bunch of youth group ministry, right, for a long time. Now you're no longer at that church. You're at another church. You're in a different leadership position now.
Yeah.
Do you find like that change? Because we've been talking about a lot of like how you connected to like students, or Jerry in particular, and things. Do you find this, like, that spending time, trying to have meaningful impact on those that you're mentoring, to be significantly different with the change of who like is that target now?
Like the demographic,
like your demographic, both age and like the different generations now that you're, if there's any like.
I would say it's different for a few reasons. One, like my kids are really high priority, right? My 3 oldest are girls. So my daughters are 19, 17, and 16. Okay. And my boys are 14 and 12. Okay. Yeah. So I've got 2 that are college age, and then 2 that are, one's a freshman, one's going to be a junior, and one's a 7th grader. Right. And I know like how important this time, this season is in their life. And so I'm actually choosing to focus on them even more than normal. So that is definitely different from when, 11 years ago, well, a lot longer now because I've been at this church almost 9 years. So 20 years ago when I started at the other church, like my kids, I didn't even have any, and they were just getting started, right? And so my dear wife, who is truly like an amazing woman, she cared for our children so well, so I could continue to do ministry while they were little. So that change in my life has been big. But now I have the opportunity to spend time primarily with ministry leaders, and I get to help work and like help develop their ministries, and we get to like brainstorm and develop strategies for reaching people and helping their ministries grow. But now I'm finding myself connecting with people that I can find commonality with. Again, it goes back to, right? So one of the greatest things that God has done is like CrossFit is, some people call it a cult. It doesn't have to be, right? But it does a lot of what people are looking for. They're looking for community. They're looking to be encouraged. They're looking for people that want a better life, right? But I'm able to be there and to take care of the body God has given me, and then like point people to Jesus too, and say, hey, come hang out at our church. Check out our church. There's more community there, and because when your body hurts or you pull a muscle or whatever, it's like that's just a reminder that this is temporary, but there's something else that's eternal, right? So I think that's part of what it means to be when Paul says, I become all things to all people, it's like, who can you connect with? Like who does God have in front of you? It's kind of that proximity principle a little bit. Who wants to spend time with you, and then be purposeful. Well, be paying attention, right? Asking God, like, okay, who do you have? And then look for those opportunities. And so I would say in some ways that hasn't changed. But now I don't have like a specific group of students to work with.
Yeah.
Now I get to kind of work with whoever God has in front of me, whether they're leaders or volunteers or my kids or friends and former students that are now doing other ministry things.
It's very cool.
I like that. You're like, when you're at a time where you don't have the time to be doing these things, you are using what time that you have to do things that you would already need to do, like you're exercising things and using them for the glory of God to reach people and be in community with people and leading them. Yeah.
And the other thing I'm trying to do is incorporate my kids in normal church things. So like my 14-year-old son, I'm like, hey, I think it was just last night, we have this men's event called Prayer and Patties, where we eat hamburgers and then we pray, right? And like 60 guys got together to pray and eat hamburgers. And my son sits next to a guy who's retired, and they just, he's a mature believer, and he just starts talking to my son, and they have like an adult conversation. It's like, man, praise God for that kind of community.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And so incorporating and bringing them along. I mean, I bet Jerry remembers going to like winter youth conferences, and like my kids are coming along with me.
I take students to that same winter conference now. So
praise the Lord.
I remember spending a lot of time with one of your kids there, like during the winter time, because it was just like, well, I get to sit next to this 7-year-old for 4 hours.
Might as well
have fun.
Yep. Yeah, those were good trips too. They're really, they made such a significant impact in my life that when stepping into, the role of youth ministry at our church, some of the first things that came to my mind were, these are priorities, and it is cool to see. Yeah, it is cool. I remember when we were at that conference the first time with our own students, I sent you a text and said, hey, guess where I am right now?
I love that so much.
Hey, guess where I am right now? Because I was to me, it was so cool. And I got to speak to one of the speakers there that was there my first year. And I remember going to his workshop. I went up to him and told him, hey, I just want to let you know you had a significant impact on me. And I want you to know who brought me. Cyrus brought me. And he goes, oh, my goodness. He goes, I did Cyrus's premarital counseling. And so, just getting to talk to those people. And so it was that conversation that made me go, it may be a blessing to Cyrus as well to tell him, that I'm here with another generation of students, because again, I was talking earlier about Philippians 1:3, but just again, I think it's really important, the turning around and kind of the upward focus for a minute. I mean, upward may be a strange way of putting it, but yeah, looking back and saying, hey, these are the things that really mattered, because from my own experience, I know that sometimes those things end up being the things that I thought didn't matter at all, or just they're things that you would go, oh yeah, that of course that would be the thing that matters, but then it feels from the leader's perspective as though maybe it fell flat. I don't know, but yeah, that's been a cool experience too. That's just something that I've been cherishing in my life as I'm growing and getting older, is getting to do some of those things from that perspective, from that role. It's cool. And so it's why I've also cherished getting to turn and go, hey,
I love that.
This mattered.
I love that.
It mattered so much that I'm hoping it matters for these people too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been cool. Can I ask, because I don't know if I've ever asked you this, and if you don't want to say, that's also totally fine, but I'm curious, from your own testimony, who are maybe some of the people that you would credit God having used to reach you with the gospel?
So thankfully, my mom was an example. She would read the Bible and encourage me to go to church and youth group, and we would go to church. And so I kind of grew up going to church, and consequently, I never really remember a time when I hadn't heard of Jesus or didn't really believe.
Similarly,
And so, but I do remember some of those Sunday school years and some of those youth group years where we would have Sunday school and we would be studying the Word. And so guys like, my youth leaders, my youth pastors, like they just made an impact. And I remember spending time with them. I remember if they would get frustrated or upset and be like, oh, okay, that wasn't great, but this is how they dealt with it, right? Yeah. And how they would introduce me to Christian music. Did you know there's music that's not just on the radio? It's like, oh, wow. It's like, cool. Christian rock, it's like, that's now there are so many Christian genres. It's amazing, right? But like those kinds of things, introducing to like Jars of Clay or DC Talk or all those like bands that once upon a time were radical. So like having those people in my life were really significant. But then having even some of the older men in the church where I would play basketball with them or they would see me, some of them spoke into my life and just said, hey, you've kind of got some natural leadership. And I was like, huh, what? I'm like a middle schooler or like a young high schooler. I'm like, huh? And like, so having them, so some of them would say things like, have you ever thought about like maybe God would call you into leadership or ministry or something like that? And, you're like, I don't know,
Yeah.
But those kinds of things kind of stick with you.
Yeah.
And so as I was trying to figure out life, then as I finished high school, they said, hey, why don't you serve in student ministry? Why don't you serve with the middle schoolers, right? It's like, so, okay. And so from like all of my adult life, I have been doing more teaching than participating. I would, I still remember like spending time in the Psalms with middle schoolers, as like 18 years old, like fresh out of high school.
Wow.
And then I would go work in the summer, and then I'd come back and maybe get involved again, or then I would get involved in a college ministry at a bigger church in Salem, because I grew up in Staten.
Mm-hmm.
And so like those kinds of opportunities, they kept giving me opportunities. And then, hey, our youth pastor is going to step down. Would you step in and be the interim? And I'm going to community college at the time, and I'm trying to figure out what God would have for me.
Yeah.
Because I knew I liked people. I knew I liked helping people. I knew I liked creation and being outdoors. I had worked in Yellowstone National Park for a couple of summers. Like I'd done a lot of fly fishing, and I've done a lot of whitewater rafting. And so I was like, man, maybe this is, and so I was like, do I go to Oregon State and study this, or do I go into like medical field? Because that's fascinating. I get to help people. And as I was like, God gave me some opportunities to do some of those things. And I realized like, he's calling me to ministry. Like that's where I'm going to be at peace, is in ministry. And so that's where he took me, ended up at Western Baptist College, now Corbin. And that's the path that he brought me into ministry. But it was because of people in my life, because of youth pastors and youth leaders. It was because there were some elders in the church that were guys that would play basketball at open gym in our carpeted sanctuary, like multi-purpose room, right?
Yeah.
And like some of those guys just pointed me to God, to Jesus, to the gospel, and okay. And God just kept working. And eventually I realized maybe it was one of those conferences, maybe it was through a conversation. I remember doing my homework at our, I don't know if I was in high school or college. It was like that senior, like 18, 19 years old kind of thing. And I remember seeing my own reflection in a window. It was at night. And I was like, wait, is this your faith? Like, do you love God? Do you love Jesus? I was like, yeah, I do. This is my faith. This is like, I'm not doing this for anybody else. This is me. And so it was in that late high school years. And I remember, so I hurt my knee really bad when I was a senior. Somebody actually jumped on my back, and long story short, like I needed knee surgery. And I remember like God kind of taught me through that. It's like, hey, like your body can fail you. So don't focus on athletics, like focus on your mind and your words, and like how you could use those things. And it, like that was part of the path. And it took, like a major knee operation to kind of teach me like, hey, God probably has something else for you. So don't rely on athleticism. Not that I was going to go be like some professional athlete or anything, but it was just like focus on developing your thinking and your speaking and your teaching and your mind, and kind of go that direction. So all those things kind of are part of that testimony of how I ended up in ministry, and how God brought me eventually to, where we spent all those years together.
Yeah.
Were you, could you see God at work in those things, or did it take time of reflection to see like, oh yeah, God was bringing me through those areas? And like different, like, I don't know if you ever had times where you were like, why am I sitting here with the middle schoolers doing this thing when I could be doing something else that I may want to do rather at the time? Because it sounded like you're going from like working in school and doing things with the church all the time.
Yeah, I think I was just like, oh, this is cool. It's like, this is a neat opportunity. And somebody was like, hey, wow, oh yeah, okay. And there was enough encouragement there that it was like, yeah, sure, I don't really have a better plan, right? I mean, it's like my prefrontal cortex was definitely still like, very malleable. And so, I was just kind of going along, and I was seeing like, oh, that I can see how God is working. Like I would take a while, right? But it was like, okay, sure. This, it's like, hey, you have sang in the choir. Why don't you sing on the music team, right? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Just having some encouragement to do those kinds of things like made a big difference all along the way. So yeah, like encourage people.
Yeah.
Like that's another like, hey, what is God maybe doing in your life? I could see that. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Go for it.
There's a beautiful simplicity to that, to the having been encouraged and then being like, okay, which is, it's faithful, right?
Yeah.
You know, trusting those who God has put in your life.
And sometimes you get a ways down that path and you look back and you're like, oh, that's why I took this path. It's
Right.
because somebody was like, have you taken a look at that direction? You're like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, oh, and so there was definitely some of that. And so, going back and telling some of those people, it's like, hey, thanks for giving me like, I was like 19 years old, like 20 years old. And you were like, hey, be our interim youth pastor. Like some of these kids are only a couple years younger than you, but take them whitewater rafting.
You were 19 then?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Whoa, I didn't realize that when you were telling that story.
Yeah. I was like 19, 20. Yeah, but I had some volunteers.
Sure.
I mean, I couldn't drive any of the vehicles.
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna say, did they rent a vehicle? Because you couldn't drive it.
No, yeah, so I mean, thankfully, God had people around me.
Yeah.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
it is wild. Like I look back and it's like, so I'm 45, right? And like I've been in ministry like over 25 years. Like it's just like,
wow,
that's really weird.
Yeah.
It's really, really weird.
But like it sounds like from a young age you were already like teaching in, getting as a high schooler, teaching middle schoolers and
well, I think I was out of high school, but still it was just like, hey, look at Psalm 1. Isn't this cool?
Yeah.
And it's just like, and hey, have you heard of jars of clay? like I was just doing what other people had done for me,
Turning and telling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just a few years older and I was like, hey, I was hungry and some guy fed me this and do you want some? I mean, it was just
do you want some?
Yeah. And really nowadays, like we talk about at our church, it's like the grace that has been extended to us by God through the gospel. It's like extend that grace to someone else, right? It just help, like it just love God, love others, right? He loved first, like just keep loving.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's cool to hear because I just have thought often, the older I get, the more and more I appreciate hearing what God has done specifically in the lives of other people. And, I have thought often, like, I don't really know much about Cyrus's experience growing up. And so it's really cool to hear that because there are a lot of parallels too in some of the things some of the roles that God had you play in my life, because I also grew up, with a mom that told me to go to church, and I also grew up having a youth pastor that said to me at one point, I remember you being like, have you ever considered this? Have you ever considered, maybe, well, the conversation was like, well, what do you think God wants you to do? When you were saying that, I was like, oh man, I remember you saying exactly that. And then I also remember being like, I don't know, I really like people. I like helping people, maybe something medical, maybe, and then kind of experiencing some of those things and then being like, no, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. I mean, I never considered the athleticism thing for obvious reasons at the time, but like, those sorts of things. And yeah, it's really cool to see. And then also, something that I've always really, really struggled with is a lot of doubt and a lot of specifically self-doubt, but I mean, just doubt in general. And so I remember at that time when it was before you were moving to another church, when you had said, okay, do you think that God may want you to be in some form of ministry? And we'd come back from, actually, it wasn't even the Guatemala trip. We'd come back from Wyoming and we had been serving in a day camp there, which was just awesome. And especially because it made me fall in love with my favorite place in the world now, which is Yellowstone.
Oh man.
Because
so
you
good.
said,
so good.
You're like, and the kids now, they call it lore now. They're like,
yeah,
I remember getting a nugget of lore about you when you're like, yeah, we're going to, even if for a couple hours, we're going to swing by Yellowstone on the way home. And I was like, why? And you go, well, I used to work there. And I was like, what? How am I 18? And I just found this out, and then you took me to a few places and that summer I turned right around and went back. Because I just loved it so much.
That road trip.
And with
friends.
Yeah. And now I've been there a few times, but that's not what we're talking about. But I remember coming back from that and having a conversation with you where I had been at school a huge project we were working on. It's like, what are you going to do? You better go job shadow all these things. And I was a junior in high school, and I was always so frustrated with it. It's like, how am I supposed to figure this out now? This feels so dumb. But I had job shadowed somebody that was a nurse or an X-ray technician and these other things. And then we had gone on that trip, and I had come back, because I'm constantly thinking like, oh, what do I like? I like helping people. And I remember telling you like, I don't think I felt more peace than when just spending time with these middle schoolers and just being the person that is willing to give them some time. And, God, I'm really glad for his patience, really grateful for his patience and long suffering, because I didn't commit to it, but I do remember being certain of it kind of, and telling you that. And then you took me seriously. That's the other thing. Like you were saying, encourage people, right? You took me seriously and said, okay, then what are those natural next steps? Mm-hmm. And when I was hearing you talk about that, it's like, man, I often think in that way now, like it's kind of wasted effort to just say, yeah, I think this. And then that just being a nebulous goal in the future, but not stopping and going, well, then what's the first door we walk through? Right? I just feel like that's a conversation people don't often have, but I remember it being had a lot then. Yeah. And now that's a mode of thinking I'm often in. It's like, well, I can't just say, yeah, I think I'd like to go do that thing someday. Yeah, okay, great.
I don't know who said it, but they said a dream without a plan is a wish.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just that idea.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're just wishing that would happen.
yeah.
Like we should dream, right? We should ask God, like, hey, what could this be for you? And then, okay, what now?
Yeah.
What now?
And I really valued that. Then I remember looking at it even at the moment, but a few years later, when a lot of my life had kind of and come back, thinking, oh man, like that's what it brought me back to was, oh, Cyrus took me seriously, and I had spent years being like not taking myself seriously, but Cyrus took me seriously, and this is the way he dealt with it. And then that just radically informed the steps in my life from that point forward, was going to then my pastor, Matt, and just asking for help. Like, this is what I think the next steps are, and I need some help with it, you know? And I haven't been taking this seriously in my life for a long time, but I want to now. Yeah. Right.
And what a great thing for those people who are like listening or watching this, right? Like, ask God that question, right? Like, what would you have me do with my life?
Yeah.
And you may already know, right? You might be afraid to admit it, but you may already know. And then, okay, what's next? Or who can help me take the next step to what's next? Like, that's a powerful thing. You say, okay, God, and like the different areas in our life, right? I mean, we have our physical bodies, right? We've got like the direction, our occupation or career, whatever he has us doing, like our emotional life, and our relationships, all like our family, or maybe like where God is leading you with someone, and then like how you're going to deal with your finances, like that all is connected to your spiritual life, right? And say, okay, God, how would you have me honor you in these different areas of my life? What does your word say? God, help me figure out like what's next. And then take a step.
Yeah. And then take a step.
And ask God's word, ask God's people, and then take another step.
Yeah. And that's the part that's so important, is that you're not just sitting and just asking and just wondering and just thinking, but then you take a faithful step, and then take a faithful step also asking God, like, God, if I'm making a mistake, I'm trusting you with that too, because I trust that you will correct me, And I remember a conversation with you when I was around that age, that was the topic of conversation, and that's just stuck with me often. It's something I often tell students, is like, hey, be careful and seek wisdom, but don't spin your wheels. Like, do that, and then take a step in faith and ask, and be humble about it, and say, God, I'm ready and willing for you to, rock my world and correct me, and I'm going to be receptive to that, and mean it, and because that was one of my greatest struggles as when I was that age. It still creeps in, but is the really like overanalyzing it. Like, oh, I don't know. Like, what if this is the wrong thing? You know, spending so much time on that. I mean, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. You probably have a better perspective on that about me even than I do, just watching me roll around in that for a long time. But it's really common to want to know lots of steps before you take a step.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's so common. So what we need to do is like, we know he wants you to do these big things.
Yeah.
Love him, love others, pursue knowing him, right? And helping other people know him. Well, what does that step look like? So Proverbs 19:6, the heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so have a plan and then ask the Lord to establish those steps.
Yeah. That's really good. That's really good. I wanted to ask, because we've gone for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to stay here forever and talk forever. I really do.
We can always have you back at some point.
I would really like that.
We can work that out.
Yeah. And hopefully not in 2 years.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, can I ask what, from your perspective, this may be strange.
It's your show, Jerry.
Yeah.
I mean, you can ask.
It's our
whatever.
show.
Oh, yeah. Well,
thank you.
I use that, like.
What is it, the proverbial or whatever it's called?
Royal.
Sorry.
It's you plural. Your.
There you go.
I'm sorry, Levi. Please forgive me.
Thank you, Cyrus. That was encouraging. But what was the most challenging thing about me as a student? Can I ask that?
I mean, it's
not a mean
it's
thing.
not. No, it's not.
Be as mean as you can.
It's not. You can take it as personally as you want, but it was your immaturity.
That's a really safe answer, Cyrus.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's so true.
Yeah.
Right?
It's such
so
a
true.
safe answer, dude. I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you were malicious, right? I don't think you were like purposefully trying to like subvert like any authority.
Sure.
Or you were
That's
just.
what you think. I mean,
if you were, you weren't very good at it. No, I think it was just like, okay, and
Yeah.
I think realizing that we all are growing up, right?
Yeah.
I still have a long way to go. And okay. Being patient, being gracious, it's like, yeah, quit throwing dodgeballs at the middle school girls' heads, right?
okay, that wasn't on purpose, but it did happen a lot.
I mean, they dodged.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Well, they learned. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the process. So, I mean, what was the most challenging, frustrating, whatever? I mean, it was just, hey,
Yeah.
you're just a young guy.
A kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought about that a lot in my life now. Is like, oh man, I just seeing it from the other side. Sometimes being like, oh, this just requires time.
Mm-hmm.
Like this just requires time for me.
Yeah.
To just be present and consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And then thinking back on, oh, that's what was done for me. Like, oh my goodness, I can only imagine the
greater appreciation
Yeah.
that like I now have for a lot of the people that devoted and spent time with me. Like it's
I've often thought like, man, I'm so sorry. That must have been so difficult when I think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have something you were going to ask? Okay. I think that there's two more things I'd like to pick your brain on as quickly as possible. One,
you realize he's the one asking the questions. I'm just sitting here answering.
Oh, I know. I don't blame you.
Okay.
oh yeah, but I'm trying to respect your time.
Okay.
But I don't know if we have.
I've got the time.
Oh, good. Okay. So
Yeah.
we were talking about how, I don't even know now. I had a segue for this, but essentially there was a period of my life where, I was around 18, probably 17, because I was pretty young senior. And I had committed, hey, I want to essentially apprentice under you. And now I didn't know this at the time, but it sounds as though you had a very similar experience growing up, or at the very least, somewhat. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'd like to do. And you had committed to do that. And he given me all these books. And then I didn't, I didn't. In the timing of it all, right then you did. This is no way at all shifting the blame, but I do remember, because I say this a lot and then I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not saying this is his fault. But like right around then, it wasn't long after that you did accept a job somewhere else. And I remember just, when I often think back to it, I go, I think I just, in many ways, kind of idolized being in youth ministry, but instead being in youth ministry with you, I think is what, at the time what it was for me. But
I remember having conversations about that.
Yeah. But because you said, hey, this doesn't mean these things that you're the one taking these steps in this right direction, right? God is leading you in that, and he's leading you in that. So keep doing that. And here's a bunch more books that should help you with that. And here's somebody, at the time you were like, hey, Adam, I've told him that this is an interest you have, and then I just never responded to his text messages, which was terrible. I apologize to him for that. But
you were just immature.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's the answer to the question. The question was going to be, from your perspective, did you have any thoughts when one of your students who had like committed this and made commitments to you and asked for your help, like just because we were talking earlier about community and the shame and the feeling is like the lies of the enemy. That was a huge role in it for me of why I just stopped going to church. And it's a real testimony to like how incredible God was using you, because all those things were true then too, and you were keeping me there. And then I just was like, it wasn't my faith at the time, and I just stopped going because I was so ashamed of myself. But yeah, I guess the question I was going to ask was, what was it? I don't know, what was your perspective on it, or what were your thoughts at the time? And did you even know that when I was like 18, I just stopped going to church for like 4 years?
Yeah, I think it was just sadness. I was sad for you. I was sad for the situation. I was also dealing with the reality that when you're a shepherd, right? You care for your flock.
Yeah.
And you can't care for two flocks in two different places. And so as much as I have dear friends and like still when I see people from some of the other churches I worked at, I mean, I was there 11 years, right? I watched a lot of people grow up, and like my heart still like is moved with joy when I see you and Levi and like your family and so many. But like, I still have these other relationships and these other sheep, to speak in the pastoral sense.
Yeah.
And so I think like there was an element of me accepting my limitations.
Yeah.
There was an element of just, like I said, sadness because I can't care for everybody. I can't maintain all these relationships. But I think also through that, through being humbled like that, you also, there's freedom in accepting your limits and remembering that I'm finite, but God's infinite, and that it's gotta be him doing the work. So there was like, if we go to 1 Corinthians 3, right? Who are you following? Is it Paul, or is it Apollos or Cephas, or is it Christ? I had a chance to sow seeds and water those seeds and sometimes harvest, but ultimately God's causing the increase, and it's and you're his. They're all his sheep, and so he's really the shepherd. I just tend where he puts me, and trying to be still available.
Yeah.
Right.
And you were. I wanted to make you were. It was I had just
And so those are the things that, but it's still sad.
Yeah.
Like when somebody goes through that, but I trusted him that he was going to continue the work that he started in your life.
Yeah.
And because of him, I it's like I could still be sad, but I could also trust and have a peace about it too.
And I didn't want to ask that I wanted to ask because I'm now in a position in my life where I think about that from the other side, and I have a really hard time letting go, I think, and wanting to be the one that fixes things. And so I brought this up earlier, when it comes to time and having to surrender that to God, I do struggle with that. And so that's why I wanted to ask you about that is, you had played an important role in my life. And then if I put myself in those shoes and think about maybe a former student that's just, we're having really good conversations and it seems like this is going to be something that I can walk alongside them with, and maybe they're going to step into ministry or something like that. And then I watch them just like ghost everyone that cares about them. Mm-hmm. I would hurt. And then, but I would just be like, mm-hmm. But I know that I struggle with that. But the lesson is, you said, being humbled and remembering that it is God's work that he's doing, and he's going to use so many people. And we've talked mm-hmm. so much about that lately. And that is, being willing to step back and go, God may have a purpose for me here and may have a role for me to fill right now. And I don't know, but I can trust him because he's got that time, and this is just what he does best. And it's just something that I do know right now that I struggle with is letting go.
Yeah.
And so
in the last 9 years, I've been able to continue learning and growing, and I was trained in being a biblical counselor, and since then, my wife and I have begun training biblical counselors ourselves, and it has been great because it helps you apply that sound doctrine to everyday life, right? And one of the things, there's an illustration is like, we are not mechanics, we're gardeners. Mm-hmm. Right. And the hard part is like we live in a microwave, like replace parts kind of society, which is often how we approach people in ministry. It's like, if I knew the right Bible verse, I could like tell them and fix it. But the reality is we have to have a gardener approach, that agricultural metaphor, right? That scripture is so full of. We have to care for them. We have to help them tend the soil. We have to water and be patient with in the seasons, the droughts, and we're like, okay, this is really God's work.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And remembering that garden's not our own.
It's not even ours.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're just stewards. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So gardeners, not mechanics. But we need mechanics because cars still fall apart.
Yeah.
But it's a spiritual metaphor.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get it mixed up.
Don't get it mixed up.
Yeah, fire your mechanics. Hire gardeners.
Hire gardeners. Yeah. Our minivan's been having some trouble. I didn't take it to a gardener.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't realize that gardener was going to have to spend years. So it's an investment until I get that minivan back. Well, I think this has been really wonderful. I've really valued this time.
I'm glad.
And I thank you for it and for giving of your time to spend with us. And thank you, Shibs, for this is a longer one and a little bit later. And I appreciate you spending this time with us. I want to close with this. I think sometimes we go like, oh, let's wrap it up. What are the things that we want to remember from this conversation? Because that's so much what this show is about is we want to demonstrate having really constructive conversations at a table so that hopefully people benefit from it. But if anything else, or if nothing else, that they go and they do that with other believers. But I think that, maybe there's someone listening that is a really young believer and they're in need of some leadership. Or there's another believer that is someone that should be turning and investing in other believers. But maybe they feel inadequate. That's something that I put in there because it's how I felt for a lot of my life. But is there advice that you would give to each of those believers? The one that's recognizing a need for leadership in their life, and obviously get it, but like the recognizing that need, and then for the other believer that's recognizing that, yeah, they should be providing that for someone else.
So both of those take time. I know that's been a real. Yeah. So seeking out who God might have, like it may take a few different people too.
Yeah.
But yeah, look in that proximity. Like, is there a local body of believers? Maybe there's somebody, and maybe look for like a specific area in their life that you really appreciate. And like we kind of talked about like some of the big areas of life, right?
Yeah.
The spiritual health, physical health, like direction in your life, emotional health, relational health, financial health. Like ask some questions. Like see some people that like I really appreciate how they live their life in that way and how they honor God with that. And then, because you don't have to have one person to do all that for you. So that's one thing. It's like, but it's going to take some courage, right? One of the things that I try to say often when I do counseling, mentoring, discipleship stuff, it's like, man, thank you for like honoring God with your boldness. You're being courageous to just say, I need some help. So listen to God's prompting in that, right? And reach out for like, and this is the hard part, like depending on where you live, like again, ask in the Discord, ask in the comments, like, hey, who could I talk to like help me get connected to a church that'll teach the Bible and point me to Jesus and the gospel and not get me, in a place with bad doctrine, but with sound doctrine, like we were looking at in Titus too. So that's one. And then the person who needs to be serving, like how can they serve? I think, again, plug into a local church, and just start asking, how can I serve?
Yeah.
And I think through finding service opportunities, and even ask a trusted person who might know you, like, where do you see some of my gifting? Right. And so through the like willingness to serve in different areas, God will make your gifting known because of how it impacts people and how you are experiencing his joy. Like when the fruit of the Spirit is demonstrated in you, when you're experiencing love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, and some others that I forget because I usually miss some. Like when you're like walking with the God and his Spirit and he's leading you, it's like you're enjoying those things in the midst of that service. Like, oh, that's probably evidence of you using your spiritual gifts. And so asking people, putting yourself in, again, like you're going to have to maybe be persistent. It might not be right away because it takes time to build trust and depending upon how you have been walking, like what's your testimony like? Do other people see that in you? Like you're going to have to be humble. Like I'm ready to, teach a class. They're like, well, let's start with Genesis.
Yeah.
That's the beginning. Let's start there. So I don't know if that really answers, but that's kind of like the two. But it comes back to the local church and connecting back with God's people and building relationships in there and spending time and being in relationship with those people. And
I think you answered it really well. And I think it is amazing how so much of this conversation, and especially right there, I just wanted to ask because I think that's a really good kind of like an action item for covering both groups of people and really everybody in both of those things, because we don't stop being led and shepherded too, right? We continue to seek that out. And I so much of what we are trying to do with this ministry is to constantly make the point that we're not trying to replace the church by, because I've had conversations where people go, oh, so it's like, finally, this is the perfect version of the church online because we can, no. Like so much of what you were saying there for both of those groups of people is that that proximity within the local church especially, but proximity with people and time with people in proximity is necessary for both of those things, right? If you're seeking opportunities to serve, well, the best avenue for that is to go to the people that are in proximity and say, hey, what are the things that you notice about me? And if you haven't spent time with them, they're like, well, I don't know your name,
We're going to be in serious trouble if we're relying on technology for our spiritual health.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's just, so it's almost hearing you say, it's like, well, it's no surprise because of how God has created us that for both of those people, they need people around them. Yeah. And so if that's not already being met, then that's really that first step is being in community and being unified with others in Christ. And it's just so important. And at a time in the world where, the enemy has been, and the world have just been trying to find ways to get us out of that, throughout history. But right now it's just now it seems as though the thing that's doing it is that, like you said earlier, the convenience of technology and those things too. And we just cannot ignore the importance of in-person connection. And I have valued that more and more the older I get. And I think so much of it comes from my decision to remove myself from it. That's not what's made me value it, but God has shown me the folly in that. And so, yeah, I'm glad you said that. That was good. That was encouraging. Thank you, Cyrus.
Yeah, I've learned that from somewhere else.
I know, but God has done a good work through you, and I'm grateful for it. Okay, well, I think this is a great place for us to wrap it up.
Yep.
We do have a tradition, and this is one that we didn't prepare you for on purpose. Cyrus, tell us a joke.
Okay. Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. How about a pizza joke?
Okay.
Oh, no, it's too cheesy.
It's good. And with that, thank you for joining us for another episode of Under the Influence.
Before we go, do you have anything to plug? Like anything that you want to steer people towards at all?
Read the book of Ephesians.
Okay.
Plug Ephesians.
Plug Ephesians.
Oh, that's good.
All right. Thank you for joining us. We love you very much.
And I love
the
you.
outro. Oh.
That's a good one.